terror financing, radicalizing innocent youths into jihad, and launching violent attacks on civilians and security forces have topped Pakistan's list of priorities when it comes to its unwarranted policy on Kashmir. However, to its major disappointment, the alert Indian security forces have been able to foil all their attempts by busting deep terror networks of Pakistan and eliminating and arresting top commanders of terror groups in Kashmir region. A report.
Islamabad's executive wing specializing in terrorism received a huge setback as Indian security forces eliminated chief of al-Badr terror outfit Abdul Ghani Khwaja, a most wanted terrorist in Kashmir's Baramulla district. Khwaja was involved in a number of terror crimes, including attacks on security forces and atrocities against civilians, as well as being the primary recruiter of youngsters into terrorist organizations.
हम सब जानते हैं कि कल सोपुर में एक अच्छा इनकाउंटर हुआ है जिसमें एक पुराना टेररिस्ट जो गनी ख्वाजा है मारे गए हैं। इसका बैकग्राउंड ये है कि 2000 में ये पाकिस्तान गया था ट्रेनिंग करने के लिए, फिर 2002 में वापस आया और 5 साल तक एक्टिव रहा बारामूला नॉर्थ कश्मीर में। उसके बाद 2007 में पुलिस ने इसको अरेस्ट किया, ये जेल में रहा, पीएसए भी इसका हुआ, फिर 2008 में रिलीज हो गया और 2008 से 2018 तक यानी दिसंबर 17 तक ये OW का काम करता रहा, मिलिटेंट के लिए स्लीपर सेल का काम करता रहा और फिर जनवरी 2018 में फिर से ये एक्टिव हो गया। 5 अगस्त 2019 के बाद यह HM छोड़ के अल-बदर का चीफ बन गया।
Later, in a big development, security forces averted 2 IED blasts in South Kashmir and arrested 4 terrorists associated with Jaish-e-Mohammed, including a student of BA first year who was being radicalized by his handlers through social media platforms to carry out the car bomb attack. In another preventive operation, police nabbed 3 terrorists associated with Lashkar-e-Taiba who were planning to carry out a major blast at a government building in Avantipura.
पिछले कुछ दिन से अवंतीपुर पुलिस 2 मॉड्यूल पर काम कर रहा था। जो एक जैश का मॉड्यूल है, जैश मोहम्मद एक कार बेस्ड व्हीकल बेस्ड आईडी ब्लास्ट करना चाह रहा था पामपुर एरिया में, पामपुर हो चाहे NH पर। उन्होंने एक साहिल नजीर, ये पामपुर का है, BA फर्स्ट ईयर का स्टूडेंट है। इसको बहुत दिन से टेलीग्राम और जंगी जो ऐप्स के इसके थ्रू इसको मोटिवेट किया और इसको कहा गया कि तुम एक सेकंड हैंड कार मैनेज करो, उसको पैसा दिया और नॉर्थ कश्मीर से एक्सप्लोसिव आना था, उसमें डाल करके इस एरिया में व्हीकल बेस्ड आईडी ब्लास्ट करना था।
After the abrogation of Article 370, a new wave of terror has emerged in Kashmir with indigenous flavor. Failing to engineer the infiltration of terrorists across the line of control, Pakistani agencies have resorted to social media platforms like Twitter, Telegram, and Facebook to radicalize and recruit Kashmiri youth. They are indoctrinating youths and influencing them with false narratives and enticing them to take violent paths besides providing them arms, ammunition, and other resources for spreading violence. Meanwhile, the common names of terror organizations active in Kashmir, like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Hizbul Mujahideen, are gradually being replaced by new ones like the Resistance Front, Lashkar-e-Mustafa, Ghaznavi Force, and Al-Badr. Most of these groups are old wine in a new bottle, with the majority of the cadre being locally recruited. However, their operational and financial control remains with their bosses in Pakistan.
Like we saw in case of Pulwama, Pakistan is always, PTV and ISI, they always try to say that everything happening in Kashmir is because of our own homegrown issues and no foreign agency or no foreigners got any role to play, which is of course a very, it's a lie which everybody understands. So these are probably two factors. Firstly, to keep that chain which links Pakistan with such terrorists, to disrupt it, and secondly, to give it a face of homegrown militancy. Social media is now the preferred tool. Firstly, it is cost effective. Secondly, it is not bounded by any geographical limitation. Sitting in Karachi, sitting in Islamabad, sitting elsewhere or in London, anywhere you can float a thing and it comes out to people in Valley. The person who sees it, a young mind, he sees it as a normal person would see anything. And when he's shown videos which are actually picked up from Middle East, Lebanon and things happening elsewhere, Syria, and then shown as if happening in Kashmir. So after 2, 3, 4 such instances, and then there's a scientific way of doing it. People who are doing it, they're doing it as per a scientific program. So the observer or the watcher, he starts believing it and he gets subverted.
Frustrated with ongoing development and peace in Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan is using all the tricks in its book to incite terrorism in the region. Although most of its moves have either failed or backfired. Vigilant Indian forces have thwarted almost all of their ill designs. A significant number of terrorists have been eliminated, while many others have been apprehended. According to the Indian government, there was a significant reduction in terror incidents in the Union Territory in 2020 in comparison to 2019. 244 terror incidents were reported in Jammu and Kashmir in 2020 in comparison to 594 in 2019, while 221 terrorists were killed in 2020 in comparison to 157 in 2019. Till February 2021, 15 terror incidents occurred in the Union Territory, in which 8 terrorists were killed.
While terrorism is on decline, successful encounters are on the rise. So it happens because of how I look at it, two things. Firstly, terrorism can only survive as long as it has the popular local support. So this is one indication that people in general are moving away from these people. Secondly, security forces network is becoming more strong, and the technical thing which has now been incorporated, whether it is visual on the border line of control or surveillance through social media and other tools, that is now paying dividends.
Pakistan, which has lost its credibility in the global arena due to its constant support of terrorism, is somehow trying to convince the international community that it is a country that is working towards peace. Last month, India and Pakistan agreed to observe a strict ceasefire along the line of control. Meanwhile, on the security front, things are only deteriorating. Several new terror groups have emerged in the Union Territory. Terror infiltration bids from Pakistan also increase as summer begins in the Kashmir Valley. And now, Pakistan-backed terror groups have been adopting and adapting terror tactics from other theatres like recruiting and radicalizing local youngsters, drones to drop weapons, tunnels for smuggling, and introducing sticky bombs in Kashmir. This puts a question mark on Pakistan's intent as to whether it genuinely seeks peace at the border or it is hatching a bigger conspiracy, and peace gestures were merely a tactical move.